I'm a big believer in anti-seize. Put a little bit on that. It doesn't take a lot, but it does take more than zero. G'day folks, it's DIY Guy 123 here, bringing you another do-it-yourself video. Today we've got a 2018 Honda CRV up on the hoist, and I'm going to talk to you about doing an oil change. You might think it's pretty simple, and there's nothing really that complicated about it. But if you've never done one before on a car like this video might give you some quick tips. The majority of what this video is going to focus on is how to reset the oil life left counter in the computer. But I'm going to go through everything soup to nuts for changing the oil. And so basically you get out of the car, you remove the fasteners, this little cover comes out of the way, and you can get at the filter. I'll show you what I used. I started with a regular screwdriver that has the regular size Phillips bit and the large Phillips bits to crack the screws loose, and then I wound them out with this, but this is certainly optional. You can do it with just regular screwdrivers. You need a large, flat, standard screwdriver like this for those quarter turn doodads. If you're really strong, you have really strong hands, and you have a filter like this, you probably don't need a filter wrench to turn it out if you have strong hands. But if it's on there really tight, then you can use a filter wrench like this to get it out. There are different types of filter wrenches. Some that have the rubber band style. I hate those. I like this one. And then you need a 17mm wrench or socket to get the oil drain plug out. This is a ratcheting wrench, which is kind of nice, but it's also 12 point on that ratcheting end. And if your oil drain plug looks at all, you know, rounded, you probably want to go to a 6-point socket. So anyway, it's a 17mm. I do want to start off by saying right away, I'm annoyed because you have to remove a cover to get access to the oil drain plug and the oil filter. Basically, the entire underneath of the engine area has covers under it. Is annoying when you have to do maintenance. So at least when they're going to put a cover on, they should make it easy to remove. Maybe they should even somehow make it so that you can slide something out of the way to, you know, like a latch or something to hinge down a cover for it. Nope. I really think Honda's pretty good for the most part, but come on, Honda. You use 3 different fasteners to get this off. One, I've got to use a large Phillips bit for this bolt, which, by the way, there are 3 of these holding it on. And this is the first oil change that's ever not been done at the dealer. It's always been done at the dealer on the dealer schedule. One of these was stripped out when I started the job, so I had to drill it out. I think it's M6x1 if I remember correctly. So anyway, just when you put these back in, anti-seize these things. I mean, I know if you're a mechanic doing this and you're under the clock to do an oil change quick, that's one thing. But if these seize in and you got to drill it out, that takes a lot of time. Anti-seize this before you put it back in. Second thing is, there are 2 of these screws that take a regular Phillips bit. When I say regular, I mean the most common size, but the normal size. And then, so large Phillips bit, regular Phillips bit, and then these things that take a standard slotted screwdriver and you turn them 1/4 of a turn to release them. There's, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 of those. So 3 different fastener types. Come on, Honda. All right, that's the last I'll say about this. For this particular vehicle, and you want to check yours to make sure it's the same, it is a Fram PH7313 filter. I looked on the Fram website and it showed the same filter for the 1.5 liter turbo, which this has, and the 2.4 liter non-turbo. That's what the filter looks like. Got a little bit of raised rubber here for grip, which is nice when you're spinning it on. A couple things that I did to just, and I have a logbook, so this is not where I'm keeping my logs written on the bottom of the cover, but I have a Fram PH7313 oil filter and oil drain plug 17mm, and I put a little dot on the cover where those things are located above here. Not for any necessary reason, but before I took this cover off, I was like, where are those things? I can't really see them through the holes, and now I can find them easier with these dots. So certainly when you write in your logbook, you should write this information down. But if you don't happen to be by your logbook and you're like, hey, I gotta get a filter, oh, there's the information. It just might be a reminder. So that's why I did it. You need a drain pan to be underneath here after you get the cover off. Drain pan, take the 17mm drain plug out. Looks like this. Inspect it, inspect the washer, make sure it's clean and not cracked and, you know, looking good. Make sure there isn't any dirt on there. A lot of drain plugs have a magnetic end on them. This one does not, which is disappointing. I wish that it had. I think all oil drain plugs should have a magnet in them for the extra buck, but anyway, it doesn't. So clean that up really well and then set it aside. This surface right here, you want to take a rag and wipe outward from the center and clean that. And then when the oil's done, pretty well done draining out of there, you come over to this area, and that's where the oil filter is up there. And you got to clean the interface where the oil filter goes. So now that we have that all set, it's time to reinstall. So I'm going to thread the oil plug back in by hand because it's still dripping and I don't want that. So that will at least stop the drip. I'll give that a torque in a sec. And as far as the filter goes, yeah, you want to this vehicle takes 0-20, very thin oil. I think that's required to get your better fuel economy these days. And also engines have really tight tolerances, so I guess they need the thinner oil for that. So when you take the cap off, a lot of oil jugs have a tinfoil seal. And I had a shop teacher one time that said, don't just pierce that till the oil flows out. He said, be careful, cut it. And he said, take your time in getting this off. Notice I'm gonna try to run this around the whole outside. There, okay, pretty close. Little, oh, I don't think I can scrape that off. He said he's taken engines apart and there was a little piece of tinfoil that caught inside of an oil passageway. Now, how it got past the oil filter, we don't know. But anyway, he always said to do that. So I've just done it that way and never had any problems. Maybe it's a waste of time. Most people just push their finger in. I don't know, but that's what I do. I'm gonna take this oil filter and I used to fill them fully and because then the engine wouldn't dry pry, you know, it would be pretty well, oil pressure would be resumed pretty quick. I've since done a bit of reading and it appears that in industrial applications, they say never fill the oil filter because you're trusting that the oil that's in this jug is actually filtered, which I think that's probably pretty safe. I mean, I would think that this stuff is filtered like 1,000 times before it goes in there. But I've seen printouts of like big cat rock trucks that are, you know, they weigh like 50,000 pounds, like big cat engines and so on. And they say, don't prime it. Now, if you have a vehicle that you've warmed up, you're changing the oil, you're going to start it again within half an hour. There's enough residual oil in all those parts that for the 2 seconds it's going to take to fill this filter, it won't make a difference. So anyway, I'll leave it to your judgment if you want to pre-fill the oil filter or not. I'm not going to, but I did put some clean oil around the rim. So let's screw this on. And sometimes this can be a nuisance and not thread on well, but oh, that one didn't thread on properly. If it doesn't seem to thread, do not force it. You don't want to, I don't care so much about stripping the oil filter, but you don't want to strip the oil filter pickup. So basically, there's all kinds of specifications. I think on the Honda filter, it says spin it until it contacts and then turn it to a certain amount of torque, or spin it until it contacts and then turn it 3/4 of a turn. I turn it that tight. All right, and we park in a garage, so if it ever did start to leak, we're gonna know. And this guy right here, click. There we go. Now you don't need to put a big 4-foot pipe on that. It's probably only about 17 foot-pounds required, but anyway, I put that much on. Okay, time to take the oil jug, put the cap back on, and go put it over beside the vehicle where the driver's side is. And that way, when you put the vehicle down, if you forget to put the oil in, you're going to, you know, trip on the container when you go to get in your car. And so that's a great reminder. I do have my fasteners lined up. Those are the 2 small Phillips head. Those are the slotted ones, the 1/4 turn ones. And here are my bolts that go back in. It's gonna be okay. All right, so the only thing to know is when you're taking this cover on and off, it does have an orientation front to back. The pointy part of the cover goes towards the back. And there are these there's this little tab right here. The cover fits, kind of slides over that tab to sort of hold it in place. That is kind of a nice touch maybe, because it lets you, does it let the cover get suspended and you can let go of it? Yeah, I guess so. So the cover is now held there, perhaps by that little holdy tab. So let's get some of, let's get these things back in place. Of course, I'm a big believer in anti-seize, put a little bit on that. It doesn't take a lot, but it does take more than 0. Okay, quick update here. I get the pan back on, bolt, 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 and then screw, screw, and then these 1/4 turn fasteners. I had problems getting the 1/4 turn fasteners to go up. They'd go up, but they wouldn't do their quarter turn. So on a couple of the metal clips up there, I had to actually flatten them out. And I wonder if they were forced up there by somebody previously and it bent them up. I could see that being a problem. They were kind of a nuisance and not the best design, but it's up there now. So we're all done under here. So we're under the hood now, and I already did it with a funnel, but I'm pretty sure you can imagine how that would work. So 020 written on the label, that's the oil you put in it. Full synthetic. Pulled the cap off, put a funnel in there, put my number of liters in there, and now we're going to start it. The dipstick is that little orange handle on the left-hand side of the engine. When you're standing in front of the bumper looking at it, we'll pull this out, clean it off, we'll put it back in, pull it out, and it's a little low. So it's down, it's acceptable, but it's a little on the low side. So I'm gonna add another 3/4 of a liter and that'll do it. I read in the manual there is a way to reset the oil life in the display. There are 2 different methods to do it described in the manual. One method applies if you have a certain option in your car. The other method, if you don't have that option, you can reset it without a scan tool, but it's not as easy. So if you don't have a scan tool, you can read your owner's manual to see if there's an option to reset it using built-in functions in the car. This video is going to show you how to use the scan tool to kind of remove any doubt about steps to reset it. All right, here we go. We'll be resetting the engine oil life counter. Basically telling the computer that, hey, we just changed the oil. Okay, so now we're going to reset the oil life counter. We have the connector here from the OBDII scanner. This one happens to be an XTOOL D7, and you look underneath the dash and you see that white connector right there, and you're gonna plug this scan tool into it. Don't force it, make sure the connector goes on there squarely. And the other end of the connector obviously goes into the XTOOL itself. So after you have the connectors on each end of the cable plugged in, start the vehicle. You don't necessarily need to start the vehicle if you can figure out how to get to the run position without the engine running. I don't know how that works with a push button start, so I just started it. And so we want to go into, this is an XTOOL D7. We want to go into special functions, oil reset, Honda. It's talking with the computer now. I want to do an automatic reset. I want to do the ICM. I want to do the reset maintenance instructions USA. And it says, the reset was successful. If the maintenance light is not off, please turn off the ignition switch and turn it on again. By operating the short range odometer reset button, the value of the warning period is displayed in the odometer. Press the short range odometer button for about 5 seconds at a time, then turn off the ignition, then turn it on again, and maintenance light goes out. Well, there's no maintenance light, so I think we're good. And let's do a quick check here. I'll press this I button on the information, and we see oil life at 100%. So I think we're pretty good. And then after you have reset the oil life, you can turn the ignition off and unplug the connector. And I'll be posting many more videos using my new XTOOL D7 scanner. So that's it for this do-it-yourself video. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye. Okay, so that is how you change the oil on a Honda CRV and then reset the oil life meter. Good luck with your do-it-yourself projects. If you like my videos, please subscribe. The end.